and Representative Gilchrest.
Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you, and thank you for what you're doing for the state of Connecticut. And I'm very excited that we get to talk about that here on Let's Talk Period.
Wonderful. So happy to be here today.
So tell us a little bit about the initiative that you're doing that's focused around endometriosis.
Great. So I'm launching later this month a working group here in the state, an endometriosis working group. We'll meet every 2 weeks with the hope being that we'll make recommendations for the legislature, which goes back into session in February.
That's really exciting. And what for you was the personal connection, or I guess even just some insight that got you interested in endometriosis as being a worthwhile cause? I mean, I know it's a worthwhile cause as someone who has the disease, but for someone who doesn't, what drew you to it?
So I had a colleague, a friend, a woman who went to the same graduate school as me, sit down with me to have coffee, and she explained that she has endometriosis. She's actually going to serve on the working group. Her name is Sarah Fox. And as she explained what had happened to her, which she's very public about, thankfully, and thank you for sharing your story, that she went years of having horrible pain, long lasting periods, and just was told over and over by medical providers that kind of like, suck it up. This is what it's like to be a woman. Just take some pain meds. And when she went to try and have children, she couldn't. And it was a result of endometriosis that she'd experienced her whole life. And she shared with me that a lot more women than you think have it. And as I started to just do some basic research, I saw that, wow, 1 in 10 women. As someone who's done work in a lot of women's health and safety issues, it just struck me, here we go again. It's an issue that impacts women. And so we've under-researched it and women are being ignored. And I don't want that to happen anymore.
Yeah. And it feels like in every 1 in 10 person born with a uterus that has endometriosis, the stories are so similar. Your friend Sarah, your colleague Sarah, her story was reflective of my story, because I too, for years, since I was 11 years old, was told, pain is normal. Ovarian cysts constantly. Here, take a birth control pill, deal with it that way. Bleeding for half the month. It's just what it is for some people, for some women. And then at 33, got acutely sick and then diagnosed with infertility just right before my 33rd birthday. So obviously, our bodies are under siege by this disease that, like you said, widely being ignored. Was there anything that surprised you? And I'm not sure if you learned about this in the last year or last 2 years, but here we are, right, in 2021, where we're supposed to be just on an equal playing field. And here in the health world, in the medical world, and we also know that's not true either when it comes to business and careers and all of that. So many things are still not equal for women. But were you shocked to learn just how, I don't want to use the word, like maybe the word is flippant, how flippant the medical community was, and not all, because we have a great, community of endo doctors, researchers, scientists. But for those that are just kind of in the general practice of OBGYN, that they were flippant towards people's pain.
Yes, I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that if it's happening to 1 in 10 women, why is misdiagnosis still such a problem? Why is it taking, I believe the average is 10 years to diagnose? That seems crazy to me.
Yep.
We hear all the time about infertility. And so,
Leading costs.
yeah, the cost of that. So it strikes me as, why wouldn't we be trying to solve this on the preventative side than addressing infertility? I just have a lot more questions than answers, which is why a working group, it's like, let's bring experts to the table. Let's bring folks who've been impacted. Let's bring groups that aren't aware, because there still isn't enough awareness. And how can we elevate this so we can maybe start to address some of these issues, at least here in our state?
Right. And with the working group, what's your primary goal with the group?
So I think first and foremost, it is education. I've brought folks to the table who do have a wealth of knowledge, but then individuals who don't. So I just want to build that awareness and education. but then also make policy recommendations. So whether that be, is it training for medical providers? Is it trying to get insurance coverage for the best techniques? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's still surgery, or that's how you figure it out if you have endometriosis.
Yep,
Like,
that's diagnostic. Yep.
um, that's
Invasive.
wild too. Like that's really like that's the best we've got in 2021.
Yep. I mean, and there are groups that are trying to diagnose or work, but there's nothing that's really available to the public yet. But there's research going on that's trying to test actual menstrual blood to see if they could get markers of endometriosis from that versus these really invasive surgeries and laparoscopies and all of that. Because at this point, even for my diagnosis back in 2016, the doctor had a strong inclination, and I had to go under the knife in order for that strong inclination. It was almost like, we think you have it and we're pretty sure you have it. We can't 100% say that without getting a biopsy, but we could go in there and not find anything, and then we don't know what you have. But it's almost like when you go into surgery, you're like crossing your fingers, please find something, because I don't want to feel, I want to be vindicated. I want to be validated. I want something to treat this terrible illness or pain or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, the work that has to be done is tremendous. And I do think that it has to be done on the state level, on the community level, on the national level, on the international level.
Yep.
But the more people like you who are in positions of influence that can get people's voices heard, that can rally around the troops, so to speak, to get possible bills even in front of people, or things, the needle moved into a more positive direction for those with endo, or any kind of menstrual health disorders. That's just really incredible, necessary work.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to learning more and seeing what we can push. The other big piece of the working group, the women I've heard from, no one should have to advocate this much just to get the health care that they need.
Right.
But that said, it's women who have the wherewithal to advocate for themselves. So what about all the other women who are already disenfranchised in our healthcare system?
Yep.
What's going on with them? And so that's another big piece too. That I cannot believe. I love that you say, I often say this, like, it is 2021 and this is what we're discussing. I mean, it seems insane.
It's totally insane. And I think it's important that you mentioned about the disenfranchised person with endo, because they don't even know they have it, because they're not even being able to go to the right doctor to get a diagnosis of even you might have it, let alone getting a proper treatment plan or anything like that. That's why I think it's so important for people in any position that is a megaphone to use it if they can, because it's so much bigger than any one of us.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's like, I'm sure people are, like, Diana, we know you have endo, like, moving along. We've heard your story a million times. It's like, it's not about me, because selfishly, I want a cure. I don't want this anymore. I want a better quality of life. I don't want to worry every year if I'm going to get sick again or need a surgery because I have an advanced stage. But even more than me, it's bigger than me, because I don't want another person to have to get a diagnosis of infertility and not have the choice if they want to have children or not. Yeah. Because everyone should have that choice, and it shouldn't be taken away from them because someone ignored their pain for 10 plus years.
Yes.
Everybody deserves a good quality of life. So, again, it takes the whole dang village to get women's voices to be heard. And there's a lot of good men supporting. But yeah, we've got our work cut out for us. And I'm just personally grateful that you've decided to back this cause.
Well, thank you. And I thank you for sharing your story, because now I've shared how it came to me. It's women actually sharing what's going on with them that gets this message out there.
Yeah. Well, and when is the actual kickoff?
So our kickoff is Monday, September 27th at 1 p.m. We'll be on Zoom. We'll put it on Facebook Live. and we'll meet by Zoom every 2 weeks.
That's
Um,
awesome. And the Endo Foundation is a part of this as well.
yeah,
I just want to add that they're helping organize. So that is also really exciting for all of us. So for those watching now, know that this will be something that you can join on September 27th. It's going to be on Facebook Live. You can write in questions. This is interactive to an extent, right?
definitely. People can
Okay,
write in
cool.
questions and then follow along the process. So our legislature goes back into session in February, and it's my hope that we'll introduce legislation and work that through the process.
And it's my hope too that we do that. And I know for one that this is, if we could just get more laws, more laws about education or knowledge, anything, just to make people's quality of life better.
Yes, 100% agreed.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.